Hello, my name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This week, we're going to discuss the most important element in a story, the antagonist. In fact, the title of today's episode is The Antagonist Cookbook. I'm going to give you some guidelines and a bit of insight as to the process, how my process of creating an antagonist, the thought that goes into it. Without the antagonist, you have no story. Remember, a story is a discussion of why you should or should not do something. And it's a discussion. So both sides of the argument must be strong. Both sides must be able to present aspects so that everything can be gone over in full. Now, it's funny because just yesterday I was asking myself the question, why do we need to do this? Why is it so important? And the problem is we spend so much time in our daily lives going back and forth over stuff that just doesn't matter. Like we argue points that literally won't matter in the next moment. Not really. And I even do it in my daily life. Like yesterday, with Lonnie, we were discussing something for Upiri, kind of the overarch, and I was just kind of like, I need to know what the point is. I don't understand. But we spend so much time in our daily lives arguing about things that don't matter, that when it comes time to actually have a discussion that matters, then we don't have the energy for that. And so that's something that has to be checked. Your antagonist, just like your antagonist, the definition of antagonist, is the character whose actions most effectively oppose the actions of the protagonist. So we're not necessarily watching all of their actions like we're watching the protagonist's actions. We get to see some of them. But the idea is that this character is effectively opposing the protagonist. And so from a story standpoint, they also need to be in the best position to do that. So when I think about an effective antagonist, I have to go back to the first time I had experienced an effective protagonist. And that is in professional wrestling, actually, in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, I know what you're saying. Wrestling is fake, blah, 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 this and that. Well, yes, it's a performance like anything else. It's a style. But in wrestling, the antagonist, the heel, in this particular case, this is a little bit simpler drawn. The heel is important, just as important for the audience, in fact, more important for the audience and for the business than the face is. And so the heel that educated me on the importance of the antagonist, the wrestler that did, is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. In particular, his series of matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in NWA. It's Starrcade, I believe, yeah. They had a series of 3 matches, which the storyline was billed as the family man, Ricky Steamboat, versus the playboy, Ric Flair. So whenever you have an antagonist, they must be in every possible aspect the opposite of your protagonist. So just like your protagonist is set up to be the best possible representation of why your purpose and expectation work, so should your antagonist be set up to be the perfect example as to why your expectation and purpose do not work. Going back to Black Panther, when you look at Angelica, Eric Killmonger, and you look at T'Challa, you look at their lives, you compare their ideologies, everything across the board. Two sides of the same coin, opposite perspectives, coming together in order to have this discussion about isolationism, among other things, about tradition, about ingenuity, innovation, all of those things, all coming together at this intersection with these two characters. That's what you have to do. That's what creates a great antagonist. And that's what creates a great story. Because we want to see a fight. You know what I mean? Like we're watching, nobody wants to watch a sporting event where it's completely one-sided the entire time. Like nobody's going to tune in for that. And for the most part, you want your protagonist, I believe, to be more of an underdog in this situation, so that it's not known to the audience that he's going to win. And that's not easy. I did mention that that's not easy, right? I mentioned it before. Writing's not easy. So, but if you want to have a great story, then you have to have a great antagonist. That antagonist has to be relatable to the audience. We talked about this before too. You could have an antagonist that everybody can see that they're the antagonist. They can see that they're the villain. The mustache twirling villain. If you he's the bad guy. But just like Eric Killmonger, the moment that you get a villain, and I always say, but for the grace of God go I. The moment you get the audience to identify with your antagonist is the moment that real life change can happen. Because then it goes from being something on the screen to being something active in their minds. And then it becomes something to discuss. Like not the action of the movie, but the themes, your purpose, the expectation. And that's where your calling, your life as an artist is activated. Because now you have people rethinking who they are, looking at their reflection, and discussing those values with other people. And it's the real catalyst for change in people's lives. So, we on Thursday will go over the antagonist for my Identity play or movie. I will get a chance to go over exactly and examine exactly the difference between Dravon and the Queen Mother. That's the character that is the antagonist in this story. So you'll get a more practical understanding of how to craft it. I've still got I've still got room to do story audits for people. So go ahead and click on the link, and you should also be able to see the you should be able to see that I have organized the videos now. So if you want to go back through and see the first This Is Writing and kind of go from the very beginning with the series and write your own story, you can definitely do that. Just click on the playlist and you'll be fine. It'll lead you straight through it. This is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. Go to mjgstorycreation.com and get your free story audit. Turn that idea into an epic story today. I'll see you next time.